Welcome to the IoT For All Podcast. Thanks for being here this week.
Thanks for having me.
Maybe we kick this off by having you give a quick introduction about yourself and the company to our audience.
I'm Jonas Schmid. I'm a co-founder and co-CEO of Akenza. We're an IoT platform, classical middleware IoT platform, have been on the market for almost a decade so far, so quite a lot of experience. Been running around mostly in the smart building sector and partially in the industry sector as well, where we have cases in various countries and with various clients.
So let me ask you this: what pulled you toward kind of building an IoT platform business like Akenza? Like just from your background experience, what brought you here?
I think it's the story of a lot of people who come a bit naively into the IoT platform business as we did, because today, if you look at the market, probably nobody would have done that directly. We come from a hardware side. So originally, we've been developing hardware for especially soil moisture hardware in that situation in about 2015, 2016. And we noticed that there's a gap on the software side of those kind of things. So we built a LoRaWAN device at that time, and come here in Switzerland. Switzerland is still one of the countries where you actually have a national LoRaWAN network over the whole country. They just rolled out that national network and nobody knew how to use it. That was basically the case there with network operators. So we saw that you had to kind of, find easy ways on how to integrate network operators. That's what we do with connectivity as a service. We found out you have to kind of build rules or build business rules on your cases. And we saw a lot of other people who either come from operations or from engineering or from business that wanted to do IoT and that had kind of those tools missing. And that's where we started with. We jumped into a market that's probably considered a red ocean today, right? I mean, if you look at how many IT platforms have been there or are still there at that time. But I think we've always been on that point of basically enabling people with not necessarily a deep IT background, building IT cases. That has always been the case that we do.
The UK smart building market is one I know you all kind of very much invested in. Tell us a little bit about what that market's like. My understanding is that there's a lot of consolidation and potentially exitings happening in the space. How do you view the market? Kind of, what's the gap that you're looking to kind of really fill and step in and, kind of like, I guess, overview of that kind of whole opportunity that you're seeing there?
One of the things that we've noticed over the last 10 years, we've always been doing a lot of cases within buildings, is that there is headquarters are often here in Switzerland, but the property capital of the world for those kind of things, at least in Western Europe, is the UK. So there's a lot of decision makers in the UK market. That's what we see. And the whole, IoT platform market on the one side and the smart building market on the other side have both seen a consolidation over the last years. We see a lot of players that have appeared even with a lot of funding. Most famous being Infograde, maybe you might know them. I think they got like 100 million investment from JLL and from others. SoftBank was in there as well, I think. They have disappeared. So they've gone there. They've made a lot of promises. They've also left a lot of scorched earth as well, of course, in some cases. But there is market opportunity in that consolidation and in picking up those pieces that have been left over by companies that have tried to succeed in that market. That's probably a very conservative market and not kind of, a hyper-inflated high-speed market. That's not what IT is. So they've left over a lot of customers that still have devices that need to be connected, or even devices out in the field that can be picked up. One of our partners in the UK has been doing a great job in migrating those kind of cases. So they are collecting a lot of those cases in the UK market. PunchTech is our partner that uses us as the backbone, basically, of his technology, and then sells smart building solutions based on our platform, but with a lot of different proprietary systems in the background that have been left over by those kind of changes in the market on hardware that disappears, and that's also a big risk for end clients, right? I mean, they buy hardware. For example, we have one case of a company that has rolled out their smart building solutions based on 50,000 devices of the same company, same hardware company, and the hardware company went bankrupt, and they just relied 100% on that one hardware company. So you need to be flexible there and exchange your hardware, exchange your software, and basically diminish those risks.
Yeah, it's a good kind of segue into something I wanted to ask you about coming across customers who have a discontinued platform or have hardware they can't use, right? Because the company went out of business or decided to kind of exit the market. What are the biggest, I guess, technical or operational challenges in pulling that off, smoothly and effectively? Because I'm sure that conversation is oftentimes tricky going into somebody who has adopted IoT, had the company they thought they trusted go out of business and now have to kind of rebuild that trust, take over an existing system, and deploy something new.
One of the big challenges that we have is it's a bit of timing question, right? The guys who went out of business might already have disappeared, right? So do I still have basically the technical people that can tell me about the setup that was there or that has been put in place? Um, Often those kind of, especially proprietary solutions, which are not like kind of on standards like LoRaWAN or others, and there's a ton of proprietary solutions. They're kind of a black box. So the end customer did never know what technology was actually used. They got maybe proprietary gateway that might still be a technology that can be migrated or a gateway that can be migrated. They might have a cloud solution in the background that they're not really clear about what it is or what has been set up. And that's the stuff that you need to find out before you can actually even try to migrate something like this or assess if it's even feasible to do so. And that can only be done if you actually have access to the people who built it or who own it or who control it. So one of the things that we also see, especially with larger enterprises at the moment, is that they want to control the data. They also want to control the cloud resources in a PaaS setup or in a separate setup, so that they have actually the future proofing and they have control over hardware or connectivity or even data, and do not give that to a plug and play player as they used to in early stages of the market.
One of the areas we've talked a lot about on this podcast is around partnerships and the value partnerships play in the IoT ecosystem. Now, I know you have a partnership with Bunch Tech. Tell me a little bit about that partnership, kind of the background, and then also maybe just for our audience's benefit, explain to us from your perspective what makes a good partnership in IoT. Because we've talked about it in a lot of different ways, but I think maybe just kind of summing up from how you all have envisioned it and what makes you even want to venture into a partnership with another organization. How do you complement each other? What do you look for? That kind of thing.
Let's start with general partnerships in the IoT sector. I believe first of all there is a very very strong sense of it needs to be an ecosystem that it works. So the ecosystem needs to go both ways. And one way for me in the hardware direction. So as I said before, having different hardware products and being able to exchange hardware products. So you have kind of a hardware ecosystem like you have, for example, in LoRaWAN market, where different players bring devices. You can exchange them. You can check quality and different things. I think that's very important. And on the other side, you have kind of, let's call it specialists in certain use cases that build custom end solutions or end solutions for their clients and very deeply understand the problem that those customers have. We're more the technical enabler. So we're more kind of the guys in the middle that say, hey, look, we can connect any hardware with your end solution. Or you could use this hardware or this data pool to gather that data, to feed it into your solution. We'll do that for you. We make that in kind of a buy approach, so you don't have to put a lot of energy in it. But we will never be the specialists in a specific use case. So partnerships that we do, usually our partners have a specific application for smart cleaning, for example. So we'll never be the specialist for smart cleaning, right? We will never be the specialist for energy analytics, in-depth energy analytics. We will be the enabler of those kind of cases. I think that's the benefit then of the end solution or of our partners that provide solutions, for example, in the smart building sector, that they don't have to take care of that whole, let's call it IoT part of the thing, but they can focus on analytics. They can focus on those kind of things. I think that's what we do with Bunch Tech as well in the UK. I mean, first of all, they know the UK market. They know there are a lot of clients there, and they very well know the use cases that those clients want to roll out. But they don't have to start and build their own backbone basically for the next years. They don't have to invest the money into that. They can just come to us if they have a technical issue, as I said, with migrating, for example, clients onto the platform, and we'll take care of that. And they can actually focus on the sales side, on the solution side of providing most value to their end clients.
Yeah, that makes sense. We've heard it's really, the complementary nature of partnerships, finding people who do things that are, you don't do and probably don't want to do in some respects. People have, I think, tried to do everything from end to end on their own. It's hard to specialize in all that and do it effectively well to kind of generate real value for customers. So the partnerships have driven this ecosystem for so many years, which is awesome. Let me ask you about your kind of akenza specifically. When you talk to customers and you're kind of pitching what you all do, what is it about your offering, your background experience that really catches the attention of customers and kind of clicks for them as to, okay, I need to basically choose working with you over potentially other customers they're considering? What is that thing that really stands out, if there is one thing that kind of catches the attention that you all are very proud of?
I mean, first of all, we have the know-how. We've built the know-how for the last decade, especially of kind of how the things are connected and how that platform should look like and how that thing scales and how that thing scales with large clients. Um, Imagine we just talked with a guy that said, yeah, it's going to take him at least 20. Their internal project was 24 months, 10 people to build their own internal IT platform. He can do the same that he was planning to do with our platform in half a day. In half a day. I mean, they started connecting sensors and they said we will be there in 2 years from now with 10 people. We will be where you are now. And that's kind of time to market that we're hell of good. If you come to me and you want a POC delivered for an IoT project that you can scale afterwards, we'll talk and we'll do it the next 3 weeks. It's then probably going to take 6 months until you sign a contract with me because that's a typical IoT case. But we're hella fast in time to market. We have hell of a, we're European, so we've built a hell of a Ferrari of a product that you can use from one sensor, but you can also run a million sensors in the same solution. It's completely based on microservices. It's completely cloud native. It just works, and it works convincingly enough to convince enterprise clients, large enterprise clients, to use that product because they can see they can use it, as I said at the beginning, without involving their IT team regularly for everything they want to do. And they can just scale IoT cases. I think that's what we need to do IoT.
So I want to ask you about kind of low code platforms really have changed the way IoT is kind of being done, getting people up and running much more quickly, kind of what you just started talking about, right? What does, for audience who may be new to this, can you explain what it means when we say low code? What does that really mean in the context of connected devices and data and kind of the role it's playing?
The solution that we built is completely self-service usable for people that can use a standard app on a mobile phone, for example. Meaning you don't have to be able to code nothing. You can enter, you can go to a website, you can create an account, you can use our user interface that's built in basically point-and-click system, so you can define all the things there on a user interface to your full use case up to the dashboard that you can set up. And you can then place a credit card and basically also pay automatically. So everything's set up in a way that you don't have to interact with code. You can. So there's a lot of options in there that people who know more about IT can use it more efficiently, can automate things, can customize certain things on their own. That's the low code part of it. So you can use custom code pieces within our product to make it easier. It's also fully available on the API. So meaning all the things you can do, you can also automate. That's especially interesting if you try to scale to large sums of devices. But that product is usable by people that can use a standard computer. Let's call it like that.
So one of the things I know you all have done is hit some pretty big milestones with devices being managed across many different locations. What has it been about what you've built that's enabled you to reach large scale and allow you to maintain that for customers as they grow? Because I think, obviously when anybody's talking about IoT solutions, it's great to get the thumbs up to even try something within an organization and you get to the pilot stage, but so many opportunities kind of fall off after pilot. What is it that you all do and have focused on and enabled to help organizations get from pilot to scale and then maintain that and allow them to grow across many different locations, different organizations and things like that?
There's always going to be a ton of projects which always stay in a POC phase, right? I mean, people try stuff, which I love. They try things. They might also get stuck in a few hundred devices, over the next 2 years before they take the next stage and go further out of that thing. First of all, we've added features that help you uh, roll with big rollouts. So the experiences have, for example, been that we have a device setup assistant that helps people that do not have the highest education to install sensors in places. Basically, it's a QR code on the device. You can walk out and you can add location information to the sensor that has already been preset. Where am I? I'm installing. How am I installing that sensor and all those kind of things. I think that's important. There's a lot of also device lifecycle management topics. So who's actually going to check for batteries in a battery case? Who's looking at online offline cases? I think that's also what's enabled with no code, right? So having an overview that basically shows you directly in the report which devices are offline today, and those kind of things to maintain those kind of big fleets of devices. I think that's very relevant.
Now, when you work with customers and you kind of get them to scale, How do you ensure that they don't end up with another kind of like legacy trap 5 years from now, 10 years from now, or whatever, like maybe the realistic time frame into the future is? Like, how do you help prepare them to kind of future proof what they have and maintain that as they grow and not worry about that kind of risk?
So generally, I mean, you can never say that they will not end up in a legacy trap. I mean, we're trying to not put them into that corner by staying, first of all, highly agnostic. So we're hyperscaler agnostic in the sense of usually we work with AWS, Azure, or Google. You can buy us as a SaaS or as a PaaS setup. It's based on standard microservices, so it's products that those kind of hyperscalers maintain, hopefully. But you're in theory able to switch between hyperscalers as well. We're staying agnostic towards different technologies. We're always trying to stay up to date to connectivities that are on the market. So you have a very broad set of different connectivities that are coming into the platform. We have the device type library, which is kind of a list of devices that we support. You can also add different ones to those, but we just add things that are coming to the market. And on the other side, we provide quite a big amount of preset integrations that go out of our platform. So the idea is not, for example, we have a MongoDB in the product, so you can save data in the time series database in the product. But as soon as you go into kind of large scale deployments, you're always, I'm talking again about a set of ecosystem. You might want to do long term storage of your data in your specific database that you have or data lake that you have within your company. So the data goes on and is sent to the data lake. At the same time, it's used in the dashboard to visualize or to create a report right now. So there's different options always, and those options grow and they need to be kept open.
I wanted to transition just a little bit to kind of AI in IoT, and I know you all have an AI assistant, right? That can you explain to us the value of an AI assistant in IoT? Kind of what can it do that maybe a traditional dashboard can't? We've seen AI assistants in other kind of industries be more predominantly used, but in the IoT space, I think it's relatively new. So just kind of curious what the value is there for somebody or just for deployment in general.
So yeah, we've set up that AI assistant. It's a akenza Genio that we work on at the moment. First of all, for us, it's a training on how data needs to look like that it can be used by AI. So it's also, of course, one of the future proofing things of what do we do, what do we need to do with sensor data or with IoT data, so it's possible to use that within different AI systems in the end. On the other side, for us, it's a bit of a replacement of the visualization. I mean, the parts coming there is, imagine now you build a dashboard for your manager and it takes you 2 weeks to set up that dashboard with the different KPIs. And he's coming and has a different request tomorrow. So kind of your time to market needs to go down. If you have an AI chat functionality, you can basically always ask other requests or for example, aggregate data within the existing functionalities that you have. So that's one of the key things that we do. The other thing is we start adding analytics. So what kind of other sources can we add to the IoT data? So you can actually ask your questions on your building, for example, and say you don't only get energy data points, but also kind of things that you can do with that data.
A big part of IoT, I think, is for people just understand the benefit that with IoT you can collect data maybe you didn't have access to before. But the biggest part is how do you, and where you get the most value is how do you understand that data, which AI helps a ton. AI assistant you're talking about is probably helps out a ton. So tell me a little bit about kind of maybe a real world example where your AI assistant is really helping turn raw IoT data into something that is more usable by the end user to be able to accommodate different asks, different kind of just decision making processes or points that come up.
So one of the cases that we work on at the moment is space optimization. So not only that we do a lot of space monitoring in the sense we put sensors into building to measure desks and meeting rooms and see how that building is used, but the answer should also be, should I rent out one of my floors? That should be the answer that you get, or that you get an answer from the AI. Those kind of questions are things that we're practically doing at the moment, what we call talk to the building, or try to get analysis out of not only an IoT data point, but also out of the historical data of that setup that we do.
So if we look into the future a little bit, where do you kind of see AI assistants like becoming more prominent? Like, what kind of role are they playing beyond what they do now? Like, where do you see as the potential for AI assistants to, I guess, in a sense, basically be the new interface for managing connected environments? What are you most excited about there, and kind of what does that transition potentially look like?
I think it will continue in that process that I've described before in that vision of no code, low code. It's just kind of a new step. So those assistants will be integrated in all the different parts of an IoT setup that you do. So starting from kind of setting up devices with specific connectivities, to setting up, as I said, creating dashboards or replacing dashboards. However, this is going to be up to device maintenance. So, please tell me which devices are offline. Today, you still have to go in the product and check that out and find out which devices are offline. So device management, just very simply described, right? Device management. So the scaling of those kind of things is definitely going to end up with AI assistance in the next 1, 2, 3 years.
For organizations that are listening to this that maybe are kind of stuck in the pilot stage, maybe they've tried multiple things, they all get to the pilot stage and they don't get beyond scale, for whatever reason, decisions internally, just unsure what the value really is going to be, just many different reasons for this. What's your advice for helping them get like unstuck and actually launching at scale and kind of getting beyond that? What's the things they should be considering? When should they be thinking about it? Those kind of stuff.
Very difficult question. I mean, if I would have the direct answer, that would be perfect. So one of the flags that we always see where they unstuck projects is, that might be a bit provocative, but is changing out specific roles. So, often we notice that kind of the scaling starts because a product manager has come into that role, not new function, or a head of R&D has arrived in a new function and sees the pressure of competition walking away in the topic. I mean, the decision makers on top are either decided because you can show them a relevant, savings potential, or you can show them that the competition is running away on all sides in front of them. That creates kind of that pressure that they need, which is the time to market thingy. Seeing that everyone else is doing it, they're not doing it, and they're losing track there. I think that's the two key topics to unstuck it from a decision maker perspective at the top. I see, as I said, I see a ton of projects are kind of in an R&D stage and moving along, but slowly moving along, and there's not a lot of pressure on that to change that, because it's not always the highest priority of the management to do IoT use cases. It's complex. It's usually interdepartmental. It involves hardware, software, connectivity, and so on and so forth. So yeah, if you don't have the pressure, it's never going to go into scaling, right? So either you can show a relevant ROI, or you can show the competition. That's the two cases that I would say.
What's next for you all? Like, what's the vision for the next kind of wave of smart buildings? What are you most excited about? What should we be on the lookout for on our end?
As I said, we're playing around with AI a lot at the moment. We're working on quite a few very interesting projects there that we hope to be able to release within the next few months. We did the beta of Genio has been finished this year, and we're working on our learnings and continuing to do our work there. So we have quite a few nice features coming up over the next months, that we're happy to show on IoT For All, of course, as well.
For our audience who wants to learn more about what you have going on, maybe stay in touch, follow up, engage further beyond this, listening to this, what's the best way they can do that?
Go to our website, www.akenza.io. There's also a 30-day free trial on there if you want to test out the product, or send us an email through contact form. We're always happy and here to help.
Really appreciate the time. Great conversation. Excited to get this out to our audience, and really appreciate it. And hopefully we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks for taking the time.